Sorry. Enjoying the music there. Hello and welcome to the Magical Witchy World TV. I am Star Ravenhawk.
And I am Rhonda Allen. Welcome back to Magical Witchy World TV. And
Yay.
our
Now
special
on with the
guest
show.
tonight.
Yeah.
On with the show.
All right.
Welcome back.
So good to see you tonight,
It's
Janet.
good to be here.
Yeah. That was nice having Janet at our last show, which it was the panel, and it's so happy to have her here tonight for us to have her to be in with the Q&A tonight.
Yes. So everyone gets to understand who you are, your background, all the things. So welcome back. Thank you for joining us again and being our guest for this week. First, we'd like to give everyone a full bio for you this week. So let me go ahead and read through your bio. Janet Callahan is an Indigenous autistic pagan priestess and Reiki master living in Metro Detroit with her family. She is the director of Spiral Moon Family Circle, an eclectic pagan circle located in Southeast Michigan. She also runs Spiral Moon Media Group, which is an outreach program of Spiral Moon Family Circle, which includes radio, TV, news, and publishing options. She works as an engineer at an automotive company, and in her spare time runs a small business consulting and website design company, works on disability advocacy projects, and participates in Lakota language reclamation and revitalization projects. Janet writes for Sage Woman magazine, Semaphore Pagan News, and her various blogs. She's published several books as well. She's trained in 2 different pagan traditions and has been in the pagan community for nearly 30 years. And we said we would be tracking, or at least inviting everyone to find you at spiralmoon.org. And we'll be trailing that throughout the show tonight. So welcome and thank you for coming back.
Yes, thank you so much. We really appreciate that. And we've been looking forward to this conversation with you. So one of the first questions we always ask everyone, because we know that everyone throughout their time, they start off calling themselves not what titles that they've been given, but rather they called themselves a particular thing. And then as their journey continues, they change what they call themselves and then what they are now. So it's kind of like that arc of what you have called yourself and what you're calling yourself now.
So that's a hard question for call myself anything, because I was like not really sure what I was or what I was doing or like what direction I was going, like which end is up, It took a long time for me to sort of get through that phase and get on with it. And then I went through a whole phase of I had read a lot and I had studied and I had done my own, like I had done spell work and stuff, but I hadn't been part of a group. And so then I was like, okay, so I'm sort of pagan, sort of Wiccan, sort of a witch, but am I really? Because I'm not part of a group, right? And I think a lot of people have that same sort of question in their mind. So I joined a couple groups and learned a few things, but not as many things as I thought I would, in some respects, because I had read a lot. And so I think most of the time I think of myself as a witch. I tell people I'm pagan. I'm pretty eclectic. I have trad Wiccan training, but that's usually not the first thing I go to.
Gotcha.
And then over the last 6 or 7 years, I guess, I have been introduced to more of my Indigenous family and have learned more things from that side as well. So
that's
gotten
great.
Weird. It's just gotten weird. and that's fine.
No, I'm going to say, I think that as you said, I think it is something that we all go through. We go through these evolutions. We don't, we're not
Yes.
static beings. We go through changes and things, like you said, you found out more about other parts of your history, your lineage, your family, and now bringing those traditions into your, or that lineage into your practice.
Right.
That's
Right.
awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. It's part of
So,
your growth.
right. And what would you say if you were to, go back to your story? What brought you to your pagan root, to your pagan traditions, to your practices right now? What brought you to this, looking back in time?
Way back in time.
Yeah.
So, like, it sounds silly, but like as a kid, I had run of the library.
Oh, fast.
And
I love it.
so I lived in a little bitty town in Missouri. We had like no outside, like the outside world might as well not exist, right?
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so it was a town of like 1,500 people.
Oh,
And I was related to about a third of them, probably.
wow.
And so, like, I had read everything that was sort of appropriate reading and then started looking at what else there was. And I actually got really interested in reading about like ESP and um, psychic things and stuff. And of course, my mom was like, I see you have a book on tarot cards. You should probably not leave that on top of the stack of library books at home.
Oh, wow.
Like, my mom's rule was we could read anything as long as we could read it, which was not really a question.
Right.
And so her theory was if we had questions for her, she would answer them to the best of her ability, but mostly we had, go figure it out. Go read, and if you're still
Wow.
confused, read some more.
Nice.
So like when Ghostbusters came out, the very first
Mhm.
Ghostbusters movie, at the beginning, Venkman has all of the Zener cards.
Yes.
And I was like, oh
Yes.
my gosh, I've read about them and they're real.
See?
But like I lived in such an insular place that it hadn't really occurred to me that there were other options for religion.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I had not met anybody like the Baptists and Methodists were those weirdos who built their churches out on the edge of town 60 years ago.
Right. Wow.
Right? The Catholic Church and the Lutheran Church were across the railroad tracks from each other.
Okay.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so it wasn't until I was pretty late in high school before I met anybody who wasn't at least nominally Christian. And then college was sort of my introduction to the idea that, like, I had read that there were Buddhists, I had read that there were Hindus. I had never met somebody who was not nominally Christian until I was very late in high school.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I ended up hanging out with some people in
Wow.
college who were pagans of various sorts, and kind of got interested in finding out what else there was.
Very good. Very good. That's awesome.
That is awesome.
And yeah, right. And from your point of view, depending on what you consider yourself to be right now, from your point of view, what does it mean to be that person?
As a pagan-ish person.
Yes, pagan-ish, or how would you
Pagan-ish,
define
witch-ish,
yourself a bit? Not
whatever.
from other people's point of view, but from yours.
So I think a couple things. I am generally like a weirdly agnostic polytheist. Like, what I have experienced in working with deities is that there are more than one of them. They present themselves that way. I don't know if that's what they are or not, but that's what we're going to go with because that's the impression I get.
Yeah.
Right? I do some regular spell work here, like for for protection and for prosperity and that sort of thing, but I don't do a ton of spell work anymore because it just is we're in a place where it's just not really that necessary for a lot of things.
Okay.
You know, which doesn't mean there aren't like people in jars in my cabinet, but like it has to be pretty bad for me to get around to doing that level of like I'm going to tell people that I'm pissed off at them, right? Those people know. They know.
Right.
First of all, they know what they did. But second of all, they know that I am still very angry at them. You know. I think it's just that I'm in a position where I'm much more sort of confident in being who I am. And so it's more a situation of like, this is where I'm at and you can take it or leave it.
There you go. That's
we
awesome.
do a lot of nature things.
That's so
we
interesting.
Have, like,
yeah.
You know, I don't know.
I was just going to say, what you're saying is it's leading into something that was something that we were going to ask you about next, which is how magic is a part of your lifestyle, of your everyday. And from what I'm hearing is that there's less practice at this point of, as you said, just doing the actual spell work. There's less of that happening because you feel just more empowered as a person. I shouldn't say more empowered, but you just feel like there's less of a need.
a lot of the things are little things, right? It's like parking spaces, and it's like,
yeah, that's so true.
It's like, okay, I need this computer to actually work today.
Yes.
Right. It's little everyday things. It's not big work things. It's not, I'm going to do a big thing every month. Right.
Gotcha.
So, and that's basically how we all kind of do it. Do I need the parking space? I don't want any more tickets. Okay. So just do your job. Just keep it invisible. No more tickets or different things that we all have to work on. Yeah, that's true. Absolutely wonderful. So tell us a little bit about what's important to you.
So, I mean, a huge part of what's important to me is my family. Right. My kids are autistic. My kids are disabled. And so that's a huge part of our sort of everyday life is making sure that they're situated and that their needs are met and that we're working towards like the best them that they can be.
Right. Yes.
Right. Yeah. And they're teenagers, so it's a little bit weird now doing that. Because we get the teenage vibe.
Yep.
You know, we had an incident a couple weeks ago where somebody was mad, so they went to their room and shut the door, and they were playing their music loud. And you know, it's a totally normal teen thing, other than it was Barney, not.
Gotcha. Right.
So honestly, that takes up a lot of time and mental space.
Right. Absolutely.
But like, there's just a ton of other things that are important, right? I'm learning to speak Lakota, and that takes time.
A lot of time, yeah.
Right? Languages are time consuming.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you know, just juggling a lot of projects and juggling work and
Have you tried? Sorry, I was just going to say, in regard to the language, the Lakota language, I've noticed that a lot of people are getting the little hand machines that you can converse with people with different languages, and they're using that to help them learn languages as well. So if they're using it to travel with, but they're using it also to try to learn the languages as well, which I think is kind of cool.
They are really cool, but they don't exist for most indigenous languages.
Oh, right. You might be right. Wow.
So it's super complicated, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Like, one of the good things about COVID was a lot of classes went online.
Right, right.
And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
so a whole world opened up to us here. It's 19 hours drive back to my mom's place in South Dakota.
Wow.
And so I can't go there for class. That's not
Right.
like I've gone out there for a 2 week long class in the past, right? But it's not really feasible to go out there for a once a week kind of
Yeah,
class all for a
Right.
semester or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, so those things have been sort of a game changer.
right. It helps.
It helps a ton.
Yeah,
Huge. That's huge. So that again, the fact that you're speaking about the not just the learning but the distance, and that brings us to the question of community, being with your people, being with your ancestors, your lineage, etc., but the notion of community. Tell us a bit about your work or your focus, anything that you're doing particularly right now that has to do with community building or relationships.
So, like, the whole point of Spiral Moon was sort of community based.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I got really tired of not being able to plan to go to events and take my kids with me. Right?
Right on.
Our community as a whole is pretty bad about
children.
children, period.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yep.
And then to have children who are a little more complicated than average just makes that
A little, yeah.
problematic at times.
Yep.
So that was my sort of first goal. It's a work in progress,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
right?
Yeah, it is.
But like we're hosting Pagan Pride not this weekend, but the next weekend. Last year was
Fabulous.
our first time doing that, and we had like 120 people show up,
That's
which
awesome.
is still sort of surprising to me. I don't know how this one's going to go, but we'll see.
Yeah. No, that's good. That was a good beginning, though, I
It
mean,
was, and
Yeah.
we hadn't had anything for quite a while. A lot of festivals shut down over COVID, and
yeah.
some of them didn't come back.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's been a struggle. It's been a struggle
Mhm.
bringing things back, but we're trying. All you can do is keep trying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So a lot of what we're doing there is based around community and on like finding those people and pulling them in,
Right,
Yes.
right. That are
right? Because
like-minded.
the,
Yeah.
the landscape has changed. It's not like
Mhm.
there's Witch Fox.
I know
Back in
Right.
the day,
Witch Fox
Exactly.
right out. And
back in
that's
the day when
Right.
I first moved here,
Mhm.
I went on Witch Fox. I looked up the names of 3 or 4 stores. We went and checked out stores and
I
met
know.
people and made connections that way, and it was all
Yeah.
in one place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
now it's
You
all
know,
gone. Yeah. That's
um,
kind of sad to see go.
so it's harder to find those connections sometimes, I think.
Yeah.
And so one of our things has been to try and make it as easy as possible to find those connections.
Right.
Right? We run a calendar, and we run a business networking group, and like the TV stuff and the radio stuff are sort of the radio is new this year, and trying to get that off the
Ah.
ground, and getting our Roku app worked until like February, and then it stopped working. So I'm still
Ah.
trying to figure out why.
Huh.
But
It
And
can
that
get difficult sometimes.
right. Yes, because there are so many different platforms to work with to deliver the
it is.
information and to try to build
Yeah.
that community. But you have the news, you have the radio, you have and those obviously are great ways to reach out. I see
Mhm.
the effort. Clearly you're putting the effort in to reach out and find those people. That's
Yeah. That's
awesome.
really great.
Exactly.
And
And
and honestly, sorry, go
Mhm.
ahead. Go ahead, Rhonda.
No, I was just going to say we're scrolling the best way to reach you so that anyone who's listening or following afterwards, they can reach spiralmoon.org and contact you all there to get contact information on events,
Right.
calendars, etc.
And one of the things that she mentioned is to the reasoning behind why Spiral Moon became a thing is similar to us in New York City with New York City Wiccan Family Temple because of, like you said, what we found when we started it out. It was my friend and I. We both had 2 young boys. They were like 2 and 3 years old. Both of them exactly the same age, basically, a couple months, but they were quiet kids. And you go to groups and they really were not welcoming at all.
Right.
Pagans are just not welcoming to people coming in with their kids. And you're like, I'm not going to have to get a babysitter every time. I want my kids to be raised in my belief system, or whatever it is your reasonings are, you know?
Well, and when you come
Right.
from
Right.
communities, where kids are everywhere,
Yeah.
right?
In other religions, and ours is just
In
not
other
that
religions and
welcoming.
other communities and in other cultures, it's nobody leaves their kids at home.
Right, and
Right.
here we are
Right.
in this one, and they were doing that. And
Mhm.
that's the reason we started. We were kind of like, if they're not going to welcome us, then let's just do
And
our
we'll do
own
our
thing.
own
And we
thing.
started with
Do our
just
own.
us two
Mhm.
and the two boys, and now
And
they're,
just
years
that's
later,
fine.
look
I
at
just
us,
want
kind
to
of a
say
thing.
Kenya's in the chat saying hey.
Oh, she is.
Yes, she
Hey,
is.
Kenya.
So, but yeah, that's
Yeah. So
fabulous that both of you
I'm
have
just saying,
created environments for
yeah,
family, for your
Mhm.
yeah,
kids,
for families, yeah. And a lot of them that came basically
That's
said
right.
they were so happy to see a group that welcomed children,
Mhm.
and we watched those
Right.
children of different ages repeating and emulating us. Like they would come in and go, so moted be, and they will literally be casting circles, and they're
Oh,
four and
that is
five
so
years old. And
awesome.
you're like, see, they observed us. They were not just running around, they observed, and
Exactly.
they were paying attention. And we wanted to raise our kids like that, and that's what we found. And it's very welcoming, and it's a great way of introducing our kids the same way other religions and communities are allowed to do. And we were like,
Mm-hmm.
there's nobody else, let's just do it.
Exactly.
Yes.
Sometimes you
I
got to
just
do
want to
that. If
chime in
something
on
is not out there for you, create your own. Got to do what you got
precisely
to do.
so. Precisely so. I have
Yeah,
not created a temple or circle, but I did create my group of tarot readers out here
there
because
See?
you
that was
go,
my
there
thing.
you
I
go.
needed community. I needed people
Exactly.
to be I
Sometimes you
needed
got
to
to
be
do
with
it. Yeah.
them. You need to create it. Kenya said, we say blessed be, then get salty because it took it literally in a because they took it literally in a fertility cult.
Mhm.
People and their assumptions about what is being done. Ah,
Yeah,
ask
Mhm.
questions. That's my answer.
yeah,
Ask
yeah, yeah,
questions.
yeah, absolutely.
Anyway,
um so what would you like to see us as pagans or witches or whatever we call ourselves accomplish? What are some of the things that, or at least one thing that you'd like to see us accomplish?
Um, honestly, I like my big, like, crazy dream is that we would actually support our community better.
mhm,
Like we
That's a pretty big thing, because it does feel like sometimes it makes you feel like you're just out there on your own trying to do all these things, and it gets tiring. It does.
well, and like there are more metaphysical shops in Michigan right now than there have ever been in like forever.
Oh
We
wow,
have
that's
we have
mhm.
good.
like 160 some companies in our business directory. And I'm
Wow.
like,
That's
how did we get
fabulous.
160 metaphysical shops in Michigan? Like, where did that come from?
I
Well,
gotta tell you, you guys beat us.
it came from people saying, I can't find a shop, which number one, that blows my mind. But number two, now we have 160 some odd shops. Are they all getting enough business to stay open? And then
Mhm.
are we looking at what other businesses are in the community? Are we looking at like
Supporting one another to see.
supporting one another in like all of these things, businesses, groups, organizations,
Yeah,
festivals?
Yeah.
yeah,
We all like people complain about, oh, well, there's no pagan things going on. Number one, there are, you just haven't looked for them. But number two, they're not
Precisely.
going to still be there if you don't show up.
right, exactly.
Huge.
That's a lot of other things. That's what you're finding, especially now that we're back out after
Mhm.
COVID, which has not
Mhm.
gone.
Right.
No.
It's just nesting itself there, because we for some reason in this day and time we have not learned how to make it extinct as yet. But the
Mm.
point is that we're trying to bring that back, and people are
Mhm.
requiring it, they're asking for it, but then they don't show up, and you're like,
Yes.
I
Exactly.
have to pay for this stuff anyways. So if you're gonna come and you want it, come and support us with it, kind of a thing.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
So you're
that's
absolutely right.
definitely a big thing. But your comment that the thing that you would like to see us accomplish is to be more supportive of each other. That is a
It's
theme.
big.
I've heard that several times from several of our guests, that is something that they're looking for, to see
Yeah.
that support within the community. That is a
Yeah.
huge thing. So that becomes a question: what do we need to be doing? How
Yeah.
do we get to sustain all of these groups? Lateral support is what Kenya says. And then she says that, Janet, you run the Michigan Pagan Chamber of Commerce, which is huge.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, that
But
should be
that's amazing though about the
spider webbed across
160,
the country.
yeah, 160 pagan shops in Michigan. I find that amazing because in New York, which used to have a few, I think we're down to like maybe two or three.
Yeah,
I kid
yeah,
you not. And New York is pretty densely packed.
yeah.
And literally there are only two or three. The rest of even the what do they call those ones? The Spanish ones. Is it
Like the
Bodegas?
botanicas.
No, no,
botanicas?
botanicas. The
Even the
botanicas, yeah.
botanicas are closing. Some of them are closing down.
Hmm.
Or when I go, I'm like, what happened to the shop? It's no longer there, and things
Yeah.
like
Well, and like what I'm seeing is tons and tons of very small shops. They're really just getting started. They're, you know, they have like one or two shelves full of books and tarot decks, and they have some stones, and they have some jewelry, and like their plan is to grow as they make enough sales to grow.
Right.
I am like about every week or every other week though, because I'm in a bunch of Michigan groups on Facebook. Somebody will post,
Hmm.
"Oh well, I'm opening a shop," and I'm like, "How are people going to hear about you if you're not even talking about it, not even
Right.
advertising it, not even
at
like I
some
don't
point though, I mean, is how big is Michigan? I mean, I'm just presuming because 160 is a lot.
like
It's a
so
big state.
Michigan I think on the whole is less populated than say New York State, but
Land mass wise, it's big.
uh-huh.
It's pretty
Okay.
big.
And it's
Yeah.
spread out. So we're the
Yeah.
11th by total area, but the 22nd by land area, I guess, because the lake counts.
Oh,
Okay.
right. Yeah. And that is true. That is so strange, but very true.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So,
then oh,
I'm sorry,
sorry, go
Star.
ahead. Go ahead. No, no, I was just gonna say, so I'm trying to, I guess I became too business oriented there for a second and thinking
Mm,
in terms of 160 new shops, and it, like you just said, is there enough people to support that in the community, kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to see that desire, because that
Yeah.
desire to be face to face and not just have an online store, I think that's
Mm-hmm.
a fabulous thing. I think it's fabulous. That goes back to the notion of community for me. But let's just go into what projects, what other things do you have going on?
Yeah. Michigan is
Whether
weird, Kenya says, and that's the truth.
it is, it has its strangeness. I mean, yes. Um, what projects do you have coming up? What things are you working on, whether within the circle with you yourself as author, etc.?
So obviously the big one is Pagan Pride because that's next weekend.
Yes.
And I'm sort of crashing on, oh shit, I forgot to do all these things.
Yes.
Which is like how it goes with events, right?
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
so that's like the most immediate, like flashing red light one.
Okay.
Hmm. Hmm.
We're trying to get a homeschool co-op off the ground this
Oh,
semester. We'll see if it
we
works or not.
right on.
A what co-op? Sorry, I didn't hear that.
A homeschool co-op,
Oh, nice, 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 nice.
um, which is intended to be virtual because
Hmm.
getting all of us in one place is hard.
Hmm.
Homeschooling.
Hmm.
Like I think there's more people even in Michigan than people realize, but you know, every state is weird right now and schools are weird right now, and so people who are homeschooling are looking for connections.
Mm.
Yes.
I think there's a
Definitely.
homeschooling association of something. There's a nationwide
Yes.
homeschooling association. Then there should be, if I remember correctly, because in New York there are parents that did go homeschooling years ago,
Yeah.
and all of these will form like the national homeschooling, then the state homeschooling, and all the different things.
Yeah, but the problem is that like 90% of those are run by right-wing Christian groups.
Yep.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Huh. I never
Yep. Yep.
saw
And
them.
yep.
Huh. Okay.
Like it's
Wow.
so back in the day, like when I was in middle school, I tried to convince my mom to homeschool me in the 80s because I'm like, I have a library. I don't need a school, right?
Right.
Um,
Right.
and she was like, "No, I think you should just go to school." Um,
It does take a person to. I'll tell you, I have
it's a lot of
tons of
work.
books, I have lots of stuff, but I don't have the mindset. I tried. I did try.
But like in the 80s and 90s, it was 110% very conservative Christian folks who decided that like Christian private schools were too liberal for their kids.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and most of those folks were super, super interested in seeing laws passed that made homeschooling more viable. So in most states, all of those organizations are run by very conservative Christian groups.
I never thought of it as a religious type of thing. You know what I mean? I
Right?
always thought of it
Influence.
as,
Yeah. It's
just
huge.
parents wanting to do what they want to do with their kids at home. But I never
Mhm.
knew that it was based on a lot of that. Wow.
Like we
Interesting.
went to
Yeah.
a homeschool expo here just recently in Flint, which was
Mhm.
sort of an interesting place to have it. I thought sort of unique in terms of
Fabulous.
choosing the place to go, right?
Mm,
I love
And
it.
out of 30-ish tables, more than half of them
Christian.
were specifically Christian.
Mm.
Wow.
Every homeschool athletic group was Christian and run by a church.
Mm.
Most of the co-ops were run by churches. There was a Bible college there who was giving free tuition to homeschoolers.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Well,
Um,
then you form your own.
yeah,
That's what I would do if I
That's
found
what she's
if I
working on
found
doing.
that's what
anything.
we're doing.
That's what
Because
she's working on
honestly,
doing. Yep.
then
Yep.
you and I think alike. Because if I really had done all that and I found that they were all like that, I'm sorry, I would be like, well then, boo to you. I'm gonna go start my own for us people who don't want to be
Mhm.
no religious orientation running it, just parents. Wow, I did not know that.
Mhm.
And it turns out it's actually doubly hard for us because there are not many groups that are willing to deal with autistic kids either. So
Mm.
it's
Mhm.
really been interesting.
I give a try.
That's
Reach out to Spiral Scouts,
So
and
I
and
actually used to run Spiral Scouts.
oh, okay. I was just
ta-da.
thinking that you could
If I
try
had to
them and
say, it
see.
sounds like Spiral Moon.
Yeah,
Before
no,
I had
because
kids,
they're
before
pretty
I had
cool. They're
kids, I
pretty
got
cool people. They're pretty cool people.
yeah. So before I had kids, I was involved in Spiral Scouts and got sort of volunteered to run the
Mhm.
organization. I ran it for about 5 years. Um, so like it has its pluses and minuses, but
Okay.
like when we went, so I helped the group. We ran a group and then it kind of fizzled out. I had
Mhm.
kids, and when my oldest was old enough to go, I had helped a group here start as well.
Mhm.
And I wrote all of the stuff about inclusion and how to work through inclusion and how to work with disabled kids.
Wow.
And the group that was here couldn't make it work.
Huh. Or they chose
How
not to
does
make
that?
it
What
work
does that mean?
because,
They could not
yeah,
make it work.
yeah.
So like it was things like
Yeah.
one meeting would be we're going to sit at a table and listen to a story and do a craft in a space
Mhm.
that they
Okay.
can't get up and run around, and a craft that requires some fine motor skills, which we are
Yeah.
lacking.
Yeah,
Mm.
that's not.
right? And another one was at a nature center, and they wanted the kids to sit down in the room and listen to the lesson and do some things. And there were live animals in the nature center,
Oh my
and a
gosh.
pond and fish. And
Yeah.
so we heard none of it. I'm sure that
Yeah.
I'm sure that he absorbed part of that lesson, but I also know that it was not really, they were not prepared for him.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we tried to work through it. And finally it was like, well,
This is not working.
if you want that, you have to do it for him. And I'm like, okay, well
Oh
then
wow.
this is
They
not what
told
I
you.
want to do.
Yeah.
Okay. Then yeah.
That's challenge. But that therein lies there's a huge gap. There's a
Mhm.
huge gap, clearly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I know hopefully there are people who are watching or who are going to watch this on playback who are really advocating for this.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is hard work, but good work and necessary
Well,
work.
and I think the thing
There's a
is, like,
need.
to be really, really honest, I
Hmm.
think that a lot of kids with various disabilities, it would be fine. There would be ways that you could do minor things to make it work. My kids are
Hmm.
not those kids,
Right. I get you.
right?
I
My
get it.
kids are if they went back to school now, one would be in high school and one would be in middle school, and we would be talking about self-contained classroom type
Not good.
levels of support.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
so, like, I understand that it's really hard for people who don't live with that on the regular to figure out how to make it work.
Right.
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 Hmm.
But it's still a thing, right? It's still a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I wish
So
you good luck with it. And
yes.
no, because it's a lot harder than people realize.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
do have a friend of mine who was very much, she homeschooled her kids for many years,
Hmm.
and she has a lot of clout here in New York with a lot of different people. I can always reach out to her and see if you can speak with her and see if there's anything at all. She might not be able to help, but she might be able to. You just never know.
Right.
Right.
So to me, it's just like you just never know. So I would gladly reach out to her and see what she would suggest for you.
Okay. That could
All
be good.
right. I want to thank you for being with us tonight. That is so great. And again, everyone, please do, as you saw, spiralmoon.org, do reach out to Janet. We want to thank her for being with us tonight.
Thanks for having me
Yes.
back.
That
And
was
I
so
know
interesting.
that was fabulous. So
Yeah.
thank you so much again. And a little bit more from our other programs here on Magical Witchy World TV. Thanks, Jen.
All right, everyone. And we are kind of going to give you a little bit of the September astrological forecast that's coming up. And as you know, I've been kind of hinting on my page. I can't wait for September. I can't wait for September
Yes.
because anything to get closer to Samhain, I want to go to. You know what I mean? That's just me.
It's like
So,
it's
anyways, we want
time.
to.
Yeah.
We kind of facing the fact that this is just the final stretch of summer. We are on the eve of the month of September, and this is the month where we kind of have this weather of like it will chill for a bit, and then it will be hot, hot, hot. That you're like, okay, so where is the September weather? Kind of a thing, you
It's
know.
yes.
But it is what it
It's
is.
coming.
So with the chaotic astrology of August behind us, you can officially start zooming into some new adventures, sans Mercury retrograde and the tangle of planetary T squares that made last month so tough. Things are looking up, but the astrology of September isn't free of intensity either, as another of retrograde is starting and eclipse season is gearing up. Okay? You'll want to mark your calendar for the major astrological events of September. For the month of September, we have the King of Cups and the Queen of Wands on the table. So look at those two cards and kind of look at them for what they are, and consider them a powerful duo. Even they are not a perfect match, but under their influence, we will discover the delight in engaging with people who are not like us. I think that is a
Mhm.
wonderful and diverse thing, and kind of falls
Yeah.
into place with what we were speaking about with Janet. Learning to expand beyond the things that she's having issues with, and hopefully we can get her some help with that. But anyways, whether it's a cultural exchange, a book written by an author from a different country, a foreign movie with rave reviews, or a vacation that forces us out of our comfort zone and our conditional biases. So we want to kind of get past a lot of those. September will be a transformative month if you allow it to be. So it's giving you suggestions and ideas. It's Virgo
Mhm.
season, and this Earth sign's cosmic ruler Mercury is no longer retrograde as of August 28th, which is certainly cause for celebration. But the month of September will kick off in Virgo season, and the tidy and organized vibes are much needed and appreciated after the planetary drama that marred the latter half of August. And we watched a lot of
Yeah,
those
it's tough.
drama go on.
Yes, we did. So let's go ahead and get started. So let's first talk about these retrogrades, as Star was saying. But let's note the retrogrades are gonna retrograde. Last month's Mercury, so we're just literally coming out of it, right? Last month's Mercury retrograde, it's finally out of the way, but more backward moving planetary action starts up again as some outer planet retrograde action will go down on September 1st as wild child Uranus begins its annual backspin, while transformational Pluto moonwalks back into Capricorn after spending the first stretch of its retrograde in Aquarius. As the planet of shocks and sudden changes, Uranus's annual backspin will bring an opportunity to process any major surprises or unexpected twists in your path that have arisen since the start of the year. This retrograde will last through January 2025. So you may finally have a chance to catch your breath and make sense of what's shifted. The Pluto retrograde has been going down in Aquarius since May, but later in the day on September 1st, this power hungry planet will roll back into Capricorn for one last jaunt. This is the last time that Pluto will backspin through Capricorn in our collective lifetimes. As once it goes direct and re enters Aquarius, it'll remain there for the next couple of decades. So it's
Wow.
time to process some of the subconscious transformations that have catalyzed over the past 15 years. 15. Yeah, big work. This is big stuff. A cosmic cleanup is most definitely in order. The purifying new moon in Virgo, again, now on September 2nd. So, September 2nd is our new moon in Virgo. That Virgo new moon faces off with stern Saturn, asking us to buckle down and get serious about tidying up the messier parts of our lives. It is a time to set practical minded intentions and incorporate some new habits, some new, I'm sorry, it's time to set practical minded intentions, incorporate some new hacks or habits into your work and health routine. Throughout the following week, go getter Mars will enter Cancer to pump up the passive aggressiveness, while communicative planet Mercury will hit its home sign of Virgo, giving everyone an editor's eye and greater attention to detail. Alongside this lunation, take action Mars clashes with hazy Neptune. So while you'll probably feel ready to move forward, it might be difficult to see exactly what your next move should be. Combine your intuition with some classic Virgo season logic to find the answers. The week after the new moon brings some energy shifts for Mars and Mercury, two important planets in your personal life.
Yeah. And on September 4th, passionate and adrenaline seeking Mars enters the sentimental and soft hearted sign of Cancer through the rest of the month, which isn't the most comfortable place for this high energy warrior planet. So you may
Mm.
find it difficult to take direct action or express your frustration, but you'll feel really strong when it comes to protecting the things that are most important to you and taking the initiative to create safe spaces for your goals to take root. Followed by logical Mercury joining the Sun in clear thinking Virgo on September 9th. Mental planet Mercury joins the Sun in its home of Virgo, a part of the zodiac where this clever and communicative planet is most effective. Then on the 9th, for the um, uh, keeping in mind that when it goes into enters into Virgo, it's its home sign. So you might feel some unsteadiness due to the anxiety of past surprises coming back and affecting you emotionally. However, it's worth framing this in a way that teaches you how to tackle adversity in your life. So it's not all bad, okay? For the next few weeks, expect to have a keener eye for details, a more practical approach to problem solving, and an analytical edge in all that you do. And the middle of the month is a wonderful time for anyone who's looking for love, as a
Hey.
gorgeous alignment between amorous Venus and lucky Jupiter on September 14th has everyone bubbling over with romantic feelings. Let yourself take a chance on a crush or get lost in the magic of love if you wish, as abundant planet Jupiter will form a lucky alignment with that planet of Venus, which is currently in its flirty home sign of Libra. So big changes are brewing during the second half of the month as the season's first eclipse arrives on September 17th, which marks a lunar eclipse full moon in Pisces and kicks off the eclipse season's chaos, forcing you to face the truth behind your fantasies and start rebuilding more sustainable realities. This is the first
Mhm.
eclipse to hit the Virgo Pisces axis since 2017. And this storyline is only just beginning to unfold. So I want you guys to pay attention to the themes that arise and trust that whatever revelations come forth are for your highest good. And 4 days later, Virgo season will come to an end and Libra season will begin. So if Virgo was a tough time for you, Libra season will give you further opportunity to relax and unwind. And this full moon and lunar eclipse in Pisces ask us to take the blinders off and take an honest and meaningful look at our lives and think, what have you been running from instead of dealing with head on? Just a thought.
Yep, yep.
Okay.
A lot of work going on as we shift from
Yeah.
summer into fall. Yeah.
September is going to
So
be busy.
it's going to be busy. Change is definitely in the air come September 22nd as the sun moves from Virgo to Libra, heralding the start of Libra season and the date of the autumn equinox as well as the first day of Libra season. Bringing more balance, peace, and alignment to your life and relationships will become a higher priority. Libra is the zodiac's cardinal air sign, and its energy is all about creating harmony, symmetry, and fairness. When Venus enters Scorpio, so you may feel a little uncomfortable, but remember, you will get through it, making love a little more intense in that period because, hey, Venus will be entering Scorpio at this point. Speaking of balance, the sun's transition into Libra also very fittingly marks the autumn equinox, aka the first official day of fall here in the northern hemisphere, and one of the two periods of the year where there are equal parts daylight and night. Equinox, right? Relationships come to the forefront now as Libra is the sign that rules partnerships, and everyone will want to bring a bit more balance to every area of their lives. As the midpoint between the summer and winter solstice, the autumn equinox kicks off the journey into the darker half of the year, and it's a good time to adjust any areas of your life that feel energetically off kilter and find your equilibrium. As the daylight hours get shorter, Libra energy reminds us to find more balance and get ourselves on solid footing. However, romantic Venus enters deep Scorpio on the very same day, so we may not shy away from extremes when it comes to when it comes to our desires and relationships. A few 26th, Mercury follows the sun into Libra, which climaxes with a conjunction between the two planets called a Mercury Cazimi, which I hate pronouncing. Anyway, on September 30th, that can spark important conversations. At the same time, motivating Mars will harmonize with Sirius Saturn, making it a great time to make headway on long term goals, too. Use this moment of clarity to think about bringing balance, fairness, and charm into your thought processes and your life. It's been a busy month astrologically. So you certainly deserve it. Get out there and have some autumnal fun.
Yes, yes, yes. And for just so you guys know, next week we will begin with, astrologically speaking, the zodiac signs. So we'll do Aries, Taurus, Gemini, and hopefully Cancer as well. So you guys can see how
Yeah.
that plays out with all of these amazing things that's going on. So September has a lot of things going on in it. Okay. And we'll
Yes,
see how that affects your
definitely.
signs. Okay. All right.
Excellent. Now, time for the cards.
All right. So,
Woohoo!
Rhonda, what do you want to
Oh,
pull the cards for tonight? I
I'm
know
just
it's a
gonna
lot.
say,
I'm just thinking about
it.
September and all the things that it
Oh
has with
my
it.
god,
What are we going to do?
so much, and I know we've got things talking. We're talking about going into our first eclipse. We're just coming out of this Mercury retrograde, and we're going into our new moon on the 2nd. We've got lots happening right now. So the only thing I'm going to ask us to all do is to say, often it's a question of, and I like to use this phrase, what do we need to bless and release? We just came out of the retro, so we had opportunity to revisit and review and rewind and rework and do all the stuff. And we're just about to begin our new moon coming up. So right now we need to, what are we getting rid of? What are the things that we need to release? What is the bless and release energy? What is the bless and release energy? What do you need to pay attention to release? And that's the question.
Okay.
Wow. I'm laughing because I'm going to go ahead. The Nine of Cups. The Nine of
All
Cups
right.
in Tarot is otherwise known as the wish fulfillment card. This is the card everyone wants to see. It's the card when you see this in a reading, it's usually the one that says, whoa, that thing that you're really desirous of, the thing that, cups are cups. The element is water. It's about emotion. It's about our heart-centered things, the things we truly love and desire. So whatever that thing is that you truly desire, this is the character who says, yeah, I can get that for you. You want a cup of wine? I got it. You want some vodka? I got it. Whatever it is you want, he's got it behind him. He can give it to you. So if I need to release something, what do I need to bless and release? Since it's the wish fulfillment card, I am saying it's time for me to release the notion of things just being wishes and dreams. That is something that I have to say. It can be that thing that draws us in. It becomes a drug. We're always wishing, dreaming, hoping for a thing, and we're not actually doing the steps to actualize the thing. So when I see this, for me, that is a message of saying, don't live in the land of wishes and dreams and hopes and wish. You have to get to the place of, how do you
Pretty much in
actualize
between.
it?
Yeah.
How do you actualize it? So that's what I take away from this card.
All right. And I got the Four of Wands,
Ooh.
which is interesting if you look at it. And I always think of wands as things that telling me to bring out my creative side, do what I need to do. And it was just so funny that you mentioned actualizing things and just stop with the wishes and just actually do something about it. Do something.
Yes.
And I looked at the Four of Wands, and all I could think about all the four different elements that's involved. And literally I'm looking at it and saying, I have so many things that I want to do, but it just feels overwhelming because I have so many different my hands in so many different things. And I think it's kind of telling me to stop being my own obstacle. Stop creating blocks. That's release all of those blocks and things that are holding me back from actualizing
Well said.
what I need to get done.
Well
I have
said.
I have so much at my back. I have so much of the big guys, the dragons, the four dragons of elements, and they're there. They've got my back, and I'm just not doing it, and it feels overwhelming to me. But they're saying, we know you've got it. Just do it.
And it's a 4, which for me, when I see that, I'm like, man, that's the anyway. Not to get all geeky, because I'm gonna go over here. It's tarot. I'm gonna get geeky on you.
Yeah.
So traditionally, that card has the energy. It's one of the 2 cards in the entire deck that's about joy and happiness, but it's a 4, so it's also about the structure of a thing. So I hear you when you say, "Oh wow, I have to." It
And
can't
the
just
wisdom.
be, yeah, you're at the point where you have to make the thing happen. And that
Yeah,
4
yeah,
means the 4 legs of the table, the 4
yeah.
walls of the house, you're building
To
something.
build, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta get it going.
Yeah.
I gotta get it going. And I
Got
feel that. I feel that energy of like I have got to step forward big and just get shit done. And that's what I think I've
Yes.
got to do. So it's interesting.
That is so
Um,
key. I want to
yeah,
just chime back, if you don't mind, for 1 second and show those 2 cards, because at the beginning of the astrological reading, we spoke about the King of Cups and the Queen of Wands,
yes, yes, yes,
right?
yes.
And this just to show. So if people are like, well, what do they look like? Here's an example of what they look like. King of Cups. Cups is the element of water again. It has to do with emotion, all the things you love. But this guy, he's so steady on that throne. He ain't getting tossed around by anything. Basically, you're not getting tossed around by your emotions. And the Queen of Wands, she's that internal flame. She is your fire, your passion. So it is water and fire. And that is a challenge for those 2 to work together, because water and fire, right?
Right.
One can drown out the other, or
But
one
somehow they're a
can.
perfect match. Somehow they're a perfect match.
Exactly.
Telling us
They do
that we
work
can do it.
together.
And
Yes.
that's the 2 cards that's kind of ruling the month of September. And that's
Yes.
why for this month of September, I think I want to try to bring in when we do the zodiac signs this month. I would like to try to see in September, rather try to bring some of the tarot in with it, the cards that are for
Sure.
that particular sign and stuff. So I'll see what I can do and
Right
see what we can
on.
bring up. All
Right
right.
on. That would be
Okay.
fabulous.
Um,
Awesome. So,
and who are we gonna have
ooh,
next week? Who are we having next
next
week?
week we're gonna have Dr. Witch. And now anybody here in Jersey knows Megan, otherwise known as Dr. Witch. You've seen her at a ton of the lunar fairs. She's often with the Lunar Queen doing the open rituals. She's down in Florida, I think, right now, doing some work. But in any case, she's going to be with us next Friday, and I'm
Yes.
excited. I can't wait for her to
Awesome,
be
awesome,
here and
awesome.
share all the work that she's up to. That'll be fabulous. In the
Yes,
meantime,
absolutely. And we want to thank our guest that we had tonight,
yes,
Janet Callahan again.
it
And
was
again, you
awesome.
saw she can be reached at spiralmoon.org. So do look out for her with all those things. And again,
Yes,
want to thank her. And again, we can look forward to next week. So
yes.
please,
Like, subscribe, and share.
yes.
Awesome.
And
Thank
see
you.
you
And
guys
thank you,
next week.
Kenya, who has her own show here on the channel. Thank you for joining us tonight and
Yes,
commenting.
yes, yes.
We
Oh, and
appreciate you.
I believe so we will have blessed new moon to you all, and anything else coming
Yes.
up during that time? No, just a new moon. Okay.
New
So we'll
moon.
see you guys next
Awesome.
week. Take
We'll
care.
see you next week. Have a great week, everybody.